This film is being made to give prospective brides and grooms a bit of an insight as to some of the better places in Broome that you can have either your ceremony and your reception. So this is the amphitheatre at Cable Beach. That can be used for ceremonies and receptions.
That's correct, Lukey. It's quite popular. You can either organise a permit through the Shire, but that's kind of a DIY ceremony yourself. Otherwise, you can go through Cable Beach Club for a fee and they will organise everything for you. But it's a beautiful location, especially for those couples that don't want to get their toes sandy, I suppose, but still want the beautiful backdrop of Cable Beach and, you know, the sunset for their guests to watch and enjoy after the ceremony.
Yeah, I think another good point about the amphitheatre is you can use it for both ceremonies and receptions, whether you choose to have yourself a marquee or just have an open starlit ceremony and reception. So
with the festoon lighting and everything like that, you've got the toilet access right at the back, which makes it really nice and easy. I've had brides, when it's all through the club, they come down in the little golf buggy and hop out. So if you don't want to have a little walk, you can jump in that through the club. But yeah, it's definitely a beautiful spot. I would recommend not having your ceremony time in the middle of the day. It's quite hot because it's warm, you're in full sun. So definitely from 3:30 onwards, you'd be aiming, especially if you want your guests, because you're going to go off and have photos, but you want your guests to mingle and enjoy the sunset, because most people are coming from afar. I'd be looking more on that kind of time frame.
And what about the downfalls? Is there any bad points for the amphitheatre?
Oh, look, in the end, it's a public space, which a lot of places are in Broome. So you do have a lot of cars coming down the access ramp to get onto the beach. You'll have people all sitting up on the steps and, you know, a few people watching and having a little nosy. But in the end, when you're in your moment, in the ceremony, you don't really take notice of what's going on. If you're the type of couple that can block out that and just enjoy and take in what's around you, which is the beauty of Cable Beach as your backdrop, then I think this could be the location for you.
Great. So where are we now, Ellie?
So we are to the right of Xandus, just under the palm trees on a really nice grassed area that kind of overlooks the amphitheatre and overlooks Cable Beach from above. This is another great location where couples can get married. I've had a wedding that I've done here with 100+ people, and everybody just kind of moseys around, plenty of room and space. It's again very open to public, but when people see that there's a wedding going on, they kind of keep their distance.
Yeah, sure. I guess this area, as well as the amphitheatre, you've got plenty of parking right here. And obviously it's pretty easy to get to for oldies or anyone in a wheelchair. Both this area and the amphitheatre are very good for those those specific needs.
Very much so, especially for the bride and bridal party, or, you know, the grooms, whoever's arriving. It's just, the cars can pull up. Even if the car park is full, because we know in tourist season everybody loves to come here and get the shots of the sunset or come to the beach, but there's still plenty of access to get cars in and out and not have to stress.
Yeah, perfect. And of course, the view is amazing from up on top of the hill.
Pretty spectacular, Lukey. Yeah, so Lukey, like being parents ourselves as well. I've been to weddings and I currently go to weddings where I've got to lug a pram around as well. So this is a really great spot, as is the amphitheatre, to push a pram along.
I guess all the areas we've looked at so far, the good thing about them that they are not, you don't have to worry about the tides in those areas. So they're far enough away from the beach.
The tides, Lukey.
Tell me about it.
Oh, the tides. So a lot of couples, especially if they don't live in Broome, they don't realise how vast our tides can be. You know, they can be all the way up to where we literally are. Like, there's been massive tides, and then they can be as far out as they are. So you really need to check on your tide times, because once again, that's access onto the beach. First of all, the gate will get shut at really big tides by the Shire.
That's a very good point, yeah.
And so if you are having a ceremony on the beach, you've got arbours, you've got chairs, you've got all the decorations happening, and the gate's locked because the tide's in at 2 o'clock and you want a 3:30 ceremony, and your hire company starts to stress because they actually need about an hour and a half to set up your ceremony.
Right.
When they're sitting at that gate, they actually can't get down. And we've had weddings and ceremonies where it's half an hour that the company's had to set up, and they're setting up right in wet sand and everything like that. So those are things to think about as well. It's also what you want as your backdrop. Do you want the ocean really far out? Because of course, Cable Beach is so vast and so large, in that if you have your ceremony, you don't want your guests having to trek miles to get to you.
Yes.
And also, you know, when the couple are walking down the aisle, you don't want them starting all the way up here and it takes them about 20 minutes to get to you. So it's the tides in Broome is something that everybody needs to look at. Of course, all your vendors are always going to remind you to have a think and have a look about that. But yeah, it's something that you really need to consider when you have a ceremony or wedding location on the beach, your reception.
Yes, specifically down on the sand.
Yeah, definitely down on the sand. And you got to think of your access down. So there are cars can come down the ramp and pull up here, but you are not allowed to leave your cars parked here. Yes. So if you have elderly family, kids, prams, everything like that getting down, you really need to think about those things as well. You've got the staircase to come down, so a lot of people will come down there as well. But it's just all of these things that you need to think about when you start looking at ceremony locations and planning it. And it comes down to personal choice. What do you as a couple want? What do you want as your backdrop? And if things like this doesn't bother you, then yeah, this could honestly be the location for you, because the photography is sensational, especially with all these red rocks popping up. I mean, once again, it's open to the public. We do have, when ceremonies are being set up, I've had people sunbaking in the background, but eventually they mosey on. And look, there's been times when I've just popped over and said, oh, look, just letting you know there's a ceremony happening. You know, you might not want to be in the back of the shots of the photographer and that, and they generally move on. And people do have a little nosy at what's going on, but they keep their distance and stand a fair bit away. Another thing is, a lot of people, when they go, they're, you know, creating their ceremony from afar and that, they think, yep, I want to get married on the beach, that's where I want to do it. They don't take into consideration that it is windy.
Yes.
It's going to be windy on the beach. So I've met with couples a few days out, they're flowing in and they're like, oh, I didn't realise it was this windy. And I mean, that's the fact of a beach wedding, especially at the time of year in the peak season and even in the off season, which we are. It's windy, so your hair is going to blow around and everything like that. So those are things to think about as well.
That's a good thing to keep in mind.
It is.
As we mentioned with some of the other places, access is a little bit harder down here. For instance, you know, we're quite some way from the amphitheatre.
That's it.
If you've got a wheelchair or a pram, it's going to be a bit harder to get down here. It's not inaccessible, but it will definitely be a bit harder to get down here in those circumstances.
Oh, and as you can see, today is a really, like, the tide. Look how far the tide is out. Yeah. And it's after 4 o'clock when most ceremonies are happening. So if you want that as your backdrop, you've got to have all the stuff down that way. But it's also, that tide's been moving out too. So it's where the hire companies can set up and everything like that.
And an hour, that water is going to move in an hour.
Exactly. So it's either coming in and chasing you, or it's going out. So
getting away from you extremely quickly in Broome.
That's it. And I guess the other thing people forget too, like, is that we do have the surf club as well. You know, I've got a lot of ceremonies up at the surf club.
Yeah, that's a great place for receptions.
It's a great place. So you have your ceremony down here, and then your guests can, you know, you go off for your photos if you want to. If you're heading straight to the party, you all just head on up to the surf club, crack open a drink, and yeah, watch the sunset from above, which is pretty nice.
Because Broome is so well known for their markets,
Yes.
there are a lot of vendors that just have a market caravan, and they can come and do an amazing job of your food for your reception or in between the ceremony and the reception.
Can they ever? That's one thing. We have some amazing food vans. So you have all your venues, and we have wonderful venues that cater and do everything. But yeah, if you're wanting your reception, say at the surf club or down the beach, and yeah, you want to kind of get in that feel of festoon lighting and all the caravan food vans coming down. I'm a real foodie. Food is my life sometimes.
I also eat.
Yes. Mind you, you're not drinking. Me, on the other hand, I love a cocktail at the Sunset Bar or a few bevies down on the beach. But yes, if you are a couple that are all about, this is what I always say to my couples, is that you need to think about your moment and what's important to you as a couple. So and where you want to spend the money, because everybody's budgeting, and we don't have endless supplies of money. Sure. And you do also need to think, well, what's important to us? So some couples will say, we want a really good photographer, our ceremony is really important, so that means we want a really good celebrant and music. Those are our three things. So that's where I say spend your money. Then other people go, we just want like the best food and drink, and that's what we want, a big party with all our friends enjoying awesome food, awesome drink. So spend your money there. It's this day and age, I suppose, you need to work out what is you guys, and everybody can get caught up in trying to please everybody else. And the thing is, everybody either has had their moment or is going to have their moment.
Sure.
This is your moment. So you want to look back and go, you know what, that was totally us.
Yep.
That ceremony rocked. That was us to a T. That reception was us 100%. You want your guests to walk away. Food and drink is really important. I remember my day, food and drink, really important. Every guest said how amazing the food and drink was.
Right.
That made us really happy, because that was us basically being delivered to all our people.
Right.
So, and for you, music, MCing, I mean, you do a bit of it all, even a bit of comedy on the side.
Well, yes, I try not to bring that into weddings though.
In regards to music and things like that, is there anything that you think couples should be thinking about when they're planning their ceremonies and receptions?
I think the most important part about organising your sound basically for your ceremony and reception is, like you said, first of all, you want to really know what you want, and once you've made that decision, then there are people available in Broome to do that. Whether you're looking for a little bit of music played at the ceremony, or if you just want a sound technician to play your special songs at the special points of that time, that can all be organised. There are also some really good local musicians in Broome, and their availability is one of the hardest things to find out. So it's really, like you said, organising that, finding out who's available, and then being able to lock them down for your special day. So
yeah, definitely. It's finding your vibe. There's the vendors that have the same vibe as you, and you can get that through the way you contact each other via email, phone calls, just stalking our Instagrams, our social media. You can get a feel for who we are and what we deliver, and that's when couples book me and book others, it's like they just click with you straight away. And that's one thing too that I always say, because couples go, who do you recommend as a photographer? We have amazing photographers in Broome, but each is so different in their own way. They capture moments in a different way. Some of them are very much about the raw beauty, very natural. Others are about very much the landscape.
So we're just about at the Broome Surf Lifesaving Club, which is another great destination for ceremonies and receptions, Elle.
Yes. Could
you give me your spiel on what you think about the surf club?
Oh look, I love the surf club. It has one of the best views. If you very much are wanting a bit of a DIY, you want plenty of room for all your guests to move around. This is the place to come. This is where you can have your fairy lights, festoon lighting, your wine barrel bars. You can get dance floors set up. Yeah. So there's, the big love letter lights if you want to light up the area. They've got all the access for all your food vans, all the companies to come in and set up.
Obviously, with floodlights, there is power supplied at the surf club. So that's great if you're having someone like me as a DJ or a musician or anyone who needs power. You don't need to worry about organising a generator or some kind of battery-powered amplification.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess, Lukey, when people look at this right now, it's just the Broome Surf Club clubhouse, really, yes. With our backdrop. But when you start to envisage how it can look, and we can go from a sit-down to your more cocktail style, there's plenty of room for all those round tables or long tables. That's so in right now. Imagine that beautiful festoon lighting kicking along.
Even some nice lounges here so you can sit down and watch your sunset as it slowly goes down.
Very much so. Cushions, rugs, you can have as many decorations. When you actually start seeing lanterns, everything being put up.
I can see a nice wooden dance floor here. Yeah. DJ set up by the tree.
Your big love lights or, lighting the scene behind. Yeah. But definitely the couches. This is a mint spot. You see people and they have all the couches, beautiful couches around where everybody can kick back and watch that sunset and just enjoy that beautiful sea breeze of an evening as well. Yes. Because it can get hot in Broome. So this is a really nice spot at the end of the day to sit with a drink and celebrate.
You also have the availability to bring in your own marquee. Yes. To be honest, I don't think you should, because all you're doing is covering up the stars. Hang some lights and watch those stars pop out. We've got the most beautiful sky here in Broome.
Yeah, we do. It's amazing when you actually allow your vendors to create. You give them an idea. What they can create for you is absolutely magical, and it just really brings out what Broome has to offer. Yeah.
So, although the Broome Surf Club looks like the surf club right now, it really pops as a venue, especially as the sun goes down. Regarding access to the Broome Surf Club, we do have pretty good access. All vendors can drive up, and like you said, if you do get yourself a food van, sometimes they'll end up parking up in the very limited car park area up top here, and that way they can throw the food out and service you very quickly from that small car park. The car park up the top is very small and is usually only limited to a caravan, to your food van. Yeah. But it does allow you to drive everything up. So if you want a couple of barrels to stand around, or the lounge chairs that we spoke about earlier, everything can be brought up in a trailer, easily set up and easily packed up.
And if you just want your guests to turn up and walk to the location, this is probably a really good location that has so many available accommodation and options for vast budgets.
It's a very short walk from Cable Beach Club, Kimberley Sands. Well, the list is endless. It's a very central location.
You've got the caravan park. So if you've got guests that are deciding to really make it a holiday, driving all the way up here, you've got Cable Beach Caravan Park, the Pearl, Franchbat, so many options that are available. Yeah, where guests can literally just walk to your location anywhere here.